Hello, class. This will be one of 2 days that I'm going to be out this week, just because of my daughter's situation and recovering from surgery. And so I know you guys are going to horribly miss me not being here, but I'm sure you'll find some way to survive. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started because I know you don't want to listen to me talk very much. And so the least amount of time that you have to hear me talk, the better it's going to be for you, right? And me. So yesterday in class we talked about the economic situation, the social situations of the South and the North. We haven't talked about advantages or disadvantages. We've talked about Lincoln's election and some of the things that Lincoln did that maybe were less desirable for people who are constitutionally minded. And so now we're going to get into the first shots of the war. Talked about how in the South, those southern states that had seceded, the first wave of states that had seceded, led by South Carolina, they had formed the Confederacy and they confiscated U.S. government property within their state. And one state, the first state that seceded, South Carolina, had a fort that resided inside of South Carolina's borders. And that fort was Fort Sumter. And so there's the main city, the capital city of South Carolina, which is Charleston. And so there's a harbor there in Charleston. And so just right inside of Charleston Harbor is Fort Sumter in South Carolina. And so there was a guy named Major Robert Anderson that commanded Fort Sumter. They had barracks on the mainland of South Carolina that they had their soldiers in. And so the fort was kind of a place that if they were going to be attacked, they would retreat back to the fort, and then they would hold up in the fort, basically. And so when the notification was given to Major Anderson that South Carolina was going to secede from the Union, then their order was given for the U.S. Army and Major Anderson to go out to Fort Sumter, and there they would keep the fort until given further directions. And so South Carolina, of course, once they seceded, sent a message to Major Anderson saying, you need to surrender the fort to South Carolina. And of course, he refused to do that. Abraham Lincoln, as president, was asking for permission at one point to send food and supplies to the people in Fort Sumter, not bring any kind of reinforcements and not bring any kind of ammunition or anything to the fort, just food for them to be able to survive. And South Carolina refused to allow that to happen. And so South Carolina said, if you come anyway and try to supply the fort, we'll consider that an act of war and we'll declare war. And then Lincoln had to make a decision on whether or not that if South Carolina attacked the fort, would that cause war as well, as far as the U.S. Army declaring war on South Carolina. And so there they stayed in the fort from late December when South Carolina had declared that they were seceding from the Union until mid-April. And so those are some months there that they are stuck there in the fort, and South Carolina is trying to starve them out, and it's not working, obviously. So April 12th, 1861 is when the fort was officially attacked. So there was a 34-hour bombardment of the fort where much of the fort was burned. There was a powder magazine, which is a room basically that contained the black powder in it for the fort and for their guns. And not only their guns, but their personal rifles, but their artillery as well. And so when that caught on fire and exploded, the entire fort went up. And so having been burned, and having no options, then eventually the fort surrendered. And so the attack on Fort Sumter is what is seen as the first shots fired in the Revolution, or excuse me, in the Civil War, okay, between North and South. And since South Carolina is technically a part of Confederacy, then that means that the U.S. Army is declaring war on the Confederacy, that it is considered that these states that are part of the Confederacy are in full-on rebellion, and now the U.S. government is going to attack them and keep them in the Union by force is what the goal is. So now, because this is a very interesting situation as far as being a civil war, there are some Southerners that don't agree with the Southern ideas of the Confederacy, but then there are some Northerners that don't agree with some of the ideas of the Northerners. So you'll have some that'll switch sides, that'll go one way or the other. You'll have families that are split up. But after Fort Sumter was over, then Lincoln called for 75,000 troops to be added to the U.S. Army for the specific purpose of invading the South and stopping the rebellion that was taking place. Not all states were eager to fight. There will be some southern states that will still be holding off. But once Lincoln calls for this army to go into the South and invade, that's when the second wave of southern states will decide to secede and join up with the Confederacy. And so Virginia led that in April of 1861, and then as well as Virginia, then their Arkansas, Tennessee, North Carolina followed after. And those are the states combined with Florida and South Carolina and Louisiana and those states that were in the first wave, they'll combine now to create a larger Confederacy. And once Virginia joins up with the Confederacy, then the capital of the Confederacy will be moved to Richmond, Virginia, which is not very far from Washington, D.C., which kind of makes an interesting situation. You've got two warring sides with their capital cities less than 50 miles apart, which is kind of interesting. So, now there were some counties of Western Virginia that did not want to secede with the rest of the state, and so the U.S. government allowed them to break off from Virginia and create a new state, the state of West Virginia, which becomes another state in the Union and currently a state in the United States as well. So an interesting situation here, and the main thing you should get from this is that these second wave of southern states decide to secede because of Lincoln's call for 75,000 troops to invade the South and put down the rebellion. Now, there were border states that never officially joined the Confederacy, even though they were southern states. So this would be Kentucky, Missouri, Maryland, and Delaware. There are individual citizens that will leave those states and join up with the Confederacy, but those states will never officially join the Confederacy. And in order to keep a few of them in the Union and not seceding, Lincoln declared martial law and sent the army in there to take over. And specifically, that was Maryland and Missouri. And so there are thoughts that Maryland and Missouri probably would have gone to the Confederacy, but because of Lincoln declaring martial law, sending the military in there, that they weren't able to secede. Kentucky decided they were not going to secede on their own, and then also Delaware decided that they weren't going to secede either. What's interesting is most people think that if those border states would have gone over to the Confederacy at the beginning of the war, that the Confederacy would have had a greater chance because these states had much larger populations that could fight, and these states had enough industry, meaning manufacturing factories, that they probably could have supplied themselves with what they needed. But Lincoln knew this, and so he tried to keep them out of the Confederacy as much as possible. So just a martial law down there, I just mentioned it. So a definition of martial law is when the military becomes the government, and the government of that state was disbanded, and then the military was in charge. They were given full reign over the states in order to keep them in the Union and keep them from fighting with the Confederacy. So here's a map here of what we have as far as Confederacy, the Union, and then border states. And as you can see, the blue states, you've got in the west, Oregon and California. Further east from there, you've got Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois, Kansas, Indiana, Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Jersey. I said that in New York, yeah, anyway. And then the Confederate states in the light gray ones there. I don't think I have to, but I will. Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia. So, all right, this is going to be the first section of the lecture, and I'll have another section, a part 2. I can only do 10 minutes at a time on this program, so I'll see you for part 2 in just a few seconds.